It's become a debate with a hair trigger, gun control. Americans have chosen a side and have dug in firmly, all as President Obama moves on without Congress. Today on 11 TV Hill, both sides of a sometimes volatile dispute over the right to bear arms. Thanks for joining us, everyone. I'm Jason Newton. It's a debate tangled in emotion and history and constitutional law. Guns and crime, the effect gun laws could or could not actually have. And then there's the Second Amendment. A lot to cram into 30 minutes, but we will work to be fair, listening to both sides of this debate. We start in Washington, though, where the gun debate gathered more steam this week. President Obama touching it off, bypassing Congress with an executive order focused on knowing more about who is buying guns. A big part of that order would close the so-called gun show loophole, which allows certain gun sellers to skip buyer background checks. Sally Kidd has the latest from Washington.
President Obama teared up as he recalled the 20 children gunned down at Sandy Hook Elementary School.
Every time I think about those kids, it gets me mad.
And now he's taking action, the centerpiece of his plan expanding background checks.
Anybody in the business of selling firearms must get a license and conduct background checks or be subject to criminal prosecutions.
He's directing the FBI and ATF to hire more agents to speed up background checks and to enforce existing laws. And he wants $500 million to expand access to treatment for mental illness.
They don't appear to be inconsistent with or a violation of the Second Amendment in the sense that they do not prevent people from acquiring firearms.
The NRA says the president is engaging in political rhetoric instead of offering meaningful solutions. A spokesman says, quote, "The American people do not need more emotional, condescending lectures that are completely devoid of facts." Other gun rights advocates agree.
He talks about common sense gun laws. Well, it's crazy because criminals don't obey the laws, and they're not going to obey any of these executive orders that he issues.
Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell says the plan is all about politics, and he says Congress will be examining it to determine whether it follows federal law. In Washington, Sally Kidd, WBAL-TV 11 News.
Sally, thanks. Opinions here in Maryland echo the national sentiment, with opinions really drawn along party lines. Former Maryland Governor Martin O'Malley, a Democrat, using a push for stronger federal gun control as a cornerstone for his presidential campaign. Baltimore Mayor Stephanie Rawlings Blake has made several similar calls for tougher federal gun laws, saying more lax rules in other states have contributed to the number of illegal guns on city streets. But current Maryland Governor Larry Hogan, a Republican, saying that lawmakers need to find other answers aside from changing gun laws on the books. Well, gun laws here in Maryland, pretty stiff. In 2013, the state passed a set of sweeping gun control measures, making it one of the most difficult states in which to purchase a firearm, and those laws are still in place. Among the stipulations, 45 varieties of assault weapons and magazines that can hold more than 10 rounds of ammo are banned here in Maryland. Potential gun buyers must also submit fingerprints to the state police and pass a background check before getting a gun license. Buyers must also pay for and complete a firearms training course to obtain that license. Well, even with those limitations, gun violence in Baltimore continues. The city was on a record pace when it comes to street violence last year. Baltimore saw 344 homicides in 2015. The city also saw a 72% increase in non-fatal shootings in 2015, with a total of 637. A December case in West Baltimore illustrated the frustration with gun laws, with a glimpse at just how easily guns were obtained despite the current restrictions. 3 bystanders, including 2 young girls, were hit with bullets inside of a corner store. In a statement, the suspect, Jahi Hamilton, told police he and friends were looking for revenge and were able to get illegal handguns just 45 minutes after being targeted themselves. Well, many of the guns used in committing crimes are not legally owned. And when it comes to the debate over restricting gun ownership, many point to the Second Amendment of the United States Constitution. That amendment reads, quote, "A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed," end quote. University of Maryland professor of constitutionalism, Dr. Mark Graber, sat down with me earlier this week and put the amendment in historical context for us and explains the ongoing debate is all about interpretation. Well, much of the gun debate is wrapped around the Second Amendment, and to help us to understand that debate a little bit more is Professor Mark Graber from the University of Maryland School of Law. Thank you for coming by.
Thank you for having me.
It's good to see you. Talk first just about the Second Amendment. Describe it to us, set the record straight. What exactly is written out by our forefathers?
The Second Amendment says that because a well-regulated militia is very important, people have a right to bear arms. Now, it's very clear that the primary purpose of the Second Amendment was to make sure that we would have a militia, state forces, that in fact we would not rely on professional armies, that in fact ordinary people would serve as the defense and be largely organized in the states. The hot question is, did the Second Amendment have some other purposes? Some people say yes, some people say no.
Talk to it about in our times today, because as we were saying before, that a lot of American debate comes on how you interpret the law. Talk about how it applies to today.
Well, one school of thought, which I'm somewhat sympathetic to, says it really doesn't apply to today. For better or worse, we've given up the militia. Once you give up the militia, you largely give up the Second Amendment. Another school of thought says, no, in fact, the Second Amendment meant individuals had a right to guns beyond militia use. Now, that's clearly correct as far as the Pennsylvania Constitution, which said, in fact, right to bear arms for the defense of the state and themselves. But it strikes me as not quite the right interpretation of the Second Amendment, which leaves out the for themselves language.
But as far as the letter of the land, if someone wants to own a gun, they can, and it's all based on this amendment itself.
Well, it's based on a Supreme Court decision called Heller interpreting that amendment as protecting a right to own a gun under certain circumstances.
Talk to me about this debate. What stirs it so much? What do you think?
Well, I think it stirs it as modern issues. Some people, when a modern issue comes up, they use a Ouija board. We interpret 18th century language. That's just what Americans do. So in fact, when same-sex marriage comes up, we interpret 19th century language. There is a provision that talks about arms. So when people say they have a right to a gun, rather than sort of saying this is a God-given right, this is a natural right, they say this is a right written down in the Second Amendment. The right does it for their favorite rights. The left does it for their favorite rights.
Okay, about 20 seconds left. Do you think any type of executive action could affect this Second Amendment right?
Well, given the actions President Obama is likely to take, I don't think so, because when you were in the militia, your weapons were inspected. There were checks to make sure you were responsible, and that is all Barack Obama is opposing. I don't think he's proposing get rid of all the guns in the land and melt them down and to turn it into a statute or something.
Okay. All right. Thank you, sir. I appreciate
Thank
you
you.
coming by. Good